library lived in. I am Anise, and this is Lisa, my co-host. And today we are going to be talking about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is super exciting because it's Harry Potter, but maybe not so exciting for other reasons. So, I'll start out. I'll read the blurb on the back of the book. It says, the 8th story, 19 years later. It was always difficult being Harry Potter, and it isn't much easier now that he is an overworked employee of the Ministry of Magic, a husband and father of 3 school-age children. While Harry grapples with a past that refuses to stay where it belongs, his youngest son Albus must struggle with the weight of a family legacy he never wanted. As past and present fuse ominously, both father and son learn the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes darkness comes from unexpected places.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, we are both very big Harry Potter fans.
Yes.
And for some reason, neither of us had read this yet. For the same reason, because we were pretty terrified that it was going to ruin everything. So I read it, and I'm giving it 2 stars. So I didn't like it, but I did kind of enjoy reading it, but only because it was the Wizarding World. And so I did kind of enjoy that. But I felt like it was super obvious that J.K. Rowling did not write this. She had nothing to do with it. She made Harry Potter. She did not write this. And so I think that's why I could enjoy it, because like I just felt like I'm free to not like it now. Because if she had written it and I didn't like it, I would have felt terrible.
Yes.
So that's what I thought. What did you think?
Yeah, so I was going to give it 2 stars too. It was terrible. That's a terrible thing to say. I really didn't enjoy it, and it wasn't at the same level of any of the rest of my Harry Potter experience. Let's see. I'll just comment as we go along, but I'll stick with that for now. It wasn't the same, and yeah, when I read it, it said that it was written by Jack Thorne, the playwright, based on a new story by J.K. Rowling, and I felt like at the end, what did she just give them a rough outline, like as in a 2-word sentence to work with, and then they just ran off. Anyways, he just ran off and did.
Oh, we're going to have to talk about this, because according to something that J.K. Rowling said herself, this story is impossible. So I don't even know how. I don't even know why.
Okay, I didn't see that quote, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
That makes me feel a little better about things.
Yeah, so I just really have no idea. Like, did it seem like fan fiction to you? I haven't read any Harry Potter fan fiction, but if I did, I would imagine it to be just like this.
I'm not much of a fan fiction reader either. I've read a few pieces here and there.
Yeah.
It struck me more this way, like somebody just took the characters and said, well, it would be fun. Let's just see what happens if we put them in a situation. I didn't feel like the characters were true to their selves, their natures. I felt like it was more plot driven than character driven, which I don't feel like. I don't know, the Harry Potter books are very plot driven, but they have very true characters too, very specific characters, and I didn't think that held true. It was just not right. Yeah, so yeah, I think you're right. I think it feels more like fan fiction then.
Yes, very much so. And so we can start talking about characters, because I noticed the exact same thing. And like, the characters were all wrong. like everybody, nobody was acting like themselves. And so then I was thinking maybe I should be more generous. I mean, it's like 20 years later, people can change, but they would not, they would not do the things they did. They would not talk the way they talked. I don't think Harry would have been choosing work and his career over his family. After everything he went through, there's no way he would let that happen. And then Ron, what did you think about Ron?
I felt like the disparity between the Ron I know and the Ron in this book were less than maybe with some, than with some of the other characters.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like he still wasn't right.
Well, all the time he was just like playing pranks on people and being like all goofy and a buffoon. And the whole time I was like, I wondered if the guy who wrote this was just like feeling bad about the twin who died. I can't even remember right now. I'm too tired to think. Whichever one died, he's just feeling bad about that and trying to replace him with Ron. That's what it seemed like to me.
Well, even, I don't know, spoiler alert, but even at the end of the book, he owns the Wizarding Wheezes. Well, what happened to the other twin?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, not, it didn't even say he was partnered with the twins owning the joke shop, which Ron probably would have loved. But no, he owned it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you just lost a main character from the other, you know what I mean? Like from the universe that everybody's attached to with zero explanation.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I felt like, I don't know. He was a humorous character before, but he also had a very real side, and you don't see any of that.
Well, I think before his humor was like just like natural. It was just his personality. And this time it seemed to be all like outward like gags and slapstick and dumb stuff. And I couldn't stand it. And the part where they're at the Ministry of Magic and they're like standing up to everyone and he like goes over and he's like, well, I don't know why everyone's standing here, but I'm gonna stand here too. And I was dying.
Yeah, that was so, terrible. Just terrible. Just terrible.
It was awful. So what about Hermione?
So, I mean, the fact that she's minister is not, I think, out of character. Like, that's fine.
Well, I like wanted to stab my eyeballs out every time I read and they called her the Minister for Magic and they were all saying it.
Well, yeah. It's like the assistant to the regional manager. Like, they just couldn't get her.
They're wizards and they know that it's called the Minister of Magic, not the Minister for Magic. And I died every single time I read it because they said it all the time.
Okay, so I didn't do that much research this go around, but is Jack Thorne British?
I have no idea.
Because, I mean, that's the playwright. Mm-hmm. I would assume he's British because it wasn't written for Broadway. It was
right.
West End. Anyways, you would think like Minister of is a British thing. That's where it all comes from. So you think he was saying it right anyway. So I mean, the fact that they put her in that role, like, okay, but she didn't act right. She didn't act like the true friend or with a good conscience or she was very like, I don't know, bureaucratic the whole time.
What did you think about the part where they were in her office with the bookshelf with like all the clues and stuff?
That's not Hermione either. She would never leave clues. She would never like it was like a scavenger hunt or a scavenger hunt for the kids, and that's not something she would do. She would have been much like she's much more intelligent than that, you know? Exactly. And she would have you know, like, okay, so she keeps it on the bookshelf, but it would have been much better guarded than that, and it wouldn't have had clues everywhere, and the bookshelf wouldn't be exploding ridiculously. I don't know. It wasn't very
No,
legitimate.
I didn't like it either. What did you think of the new characters, the children?
Okay, so I'm trying to think of all their names. Rose, I didn't think Rose was terrible. She has a much lesser part.
Yeah, she's not around very much.
Because she's lesser developed, it's easier to like her in this game. I felt like sort of their rivalry was a little more natural. I mean, they're cousins, but it's almost like sibling rivalry. And I think in a family that would be as closely entangled as this one is, that could be legitimate. Anyway, so I was okay with Rose. And it's Scorpius, right? Malfoy's son. Also, I don't know. I don't think I hated him as much. Although I don't know that he's exactly what I would think either. I don't know. We see the older kids very little. Harry and Ginny's older too, very little. So you don't get very much, I don't know, of them. So it's just Albus. I don't think he's very well written. I don't think he's very well developed. I think what do you call it? I don't know, like the situation they put him in, being called to the wrong house, and kind of being offset from Harry, and kind of that struggle. Like, that's a fine situation. That would make sense. But I don't feel like he was written terrifically well. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's the part that came from J.K. Rowling, was he had said before that Harry's son was sorted into Slytherin. And so maybe that's what inspired this whole thing. It felt to me like it was trying to be like Malfoy redemption time. Like the whole time, all before no one liked him. Even J.K. Rowling said she didn't know why anyone likes him. And so this just seemed like the whole thing was just trying to show how misunderstood Malfoy and his family were, and how, I don't know, it reminded me a lot of the whole Phantom of the Opera thing. So a couple of years ago, Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote a sequel to Phantom of the Opera, and it's called Love Never Dies. And basically, if you want Christine to end up with Raoul, then watch Phantom of the Opera. If you want her to end up with the Phantom, then watch Love Never Dies. It felt like that kind of thing, like just making everything different. I don't know. I'm rambling now.
I didn't know that, though.
Yeah. The music isn't as good. I have the soundtrack because I had to get it just to see. It's not as good. It has its moments, but overall, it's not as good as the original, which I would say would apply to this one also. For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of the Malfoys, how did you feel about Draco?
It was too weird. I think, like, after everything that happened in the original series, like, that changed them all. Like, there's no way they're ever going to, like, their lives aren't going to be normal. They're not going to forget all of that stuff that happens. They can have jobs and they can have families and all of that, but I think that everything that happened to them was big enough that they would, like, I don't know, we saw that all of those good qualities of friendship and bravery and loyalty, that's what won out. And even 20 years later, I don't think they would have lost that to the point that it was in this story.
Agreed. I do think sometimes with time, even when important things have happened to us, we kind of, I don't know, we don't always keep those things at the forefront of our mind. But you're right, like this was a massive, I mean, it's a war. It's a massive thing, and they were all in the middle of a big battle. And that's, you know, if you look at people that have survived those kind of experiences, they have a permanent sort of shift in the way they view things, the way they act. I thought Draco was a confused mess. Like he didn't know whether to be acting like his father and throwing around money and power and name, or trying to avoid his name, or trying to, you know what I mean, be sentimental or not. And I felt like he didn't know what he was doing the entire book.
Yeah.
Like, I hate you, Harry, but we're going to be good friends. But we're going to,
Yeah, it was really strange. I don't know. I agree with you. I think the characters were not super well done. They were just, I don't know. And I tried to think, like as I was reading, I tried to think, okay, how would this be if someone was on a stage saying it? And then that just made me feel bad. Because I just wanted it, like the whole time, ever since I first heard about this, I just wanted it to be like the actual 8th book, which it is definitely not. And I'm not even, I don't consider it part of the Harry Potter series.
so I was thinking the whole time whether it fit the canon. You know, like there's this whole thing about whether it's canon or not. And I got to the end and I was like, I could pretty much not. This just doesn't count. Which, it's really funny to me, the whole, like all the stories that have come out of the Pottermore experience feel like canon to me. Like they're outtakes and things and background information that feels legitimate.
Well, it's because a lot of that did come from J.K. Rowling. She wrote it. But then I found out, like when they changed the Pottermore website over to what it is now, they were hiring writers. And so now stuff that's on there, like I read it and it's like I could tell. Like it's just stuff now. Her stuff is still on there, but they're like adding in other stuff too.
That makes me so sad.
I know, but at least you can tell. Like you can always tell.
But still, you just shouldn't mess with a good thing.
I know.
You just shouldn't mess with a good thing. But just, like it's so big in and of itself and so amazing in and of itself. You kind of wonder if C.S. Lewis or, I can't think of his name. I'm just J.R.R. Tolkien, like would they in the same position do something similar? You know, would they let it run away like that? Makes me sad.
Yeah. Anyways, so do you want to talk about the storyline now?
Sure, let's.
Okay. So one of the biggest things, like when I read this part, this is when I was like, nope, this is not Harry Potter. This doesn't count. She didn't write this. The end. Was when I think it was Harry and Albus were having a conversation, or it could have been someone else. I probably wasn't even paying attention. But this was the quote. In every shining moment of happiness is that drop of poison, the knowledge that pain will come again. And when I read that, I was like, no, 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 no. Because the whole point of Harry Potter was that love overcomes evil. And even though a lot of bad things happen, and a lot of hard things, and just really awful things, that love can overcome that. And I think that was why that's what made me think of that article I posted that was talking about how Harry Potter is a Christian allegory, which J.K. Rowling has said she didn't say it originally because she didn't want to give away where the story was going. But that was the underlying theme the whole time, was that love can overcome death, and that it has. And so when I read that, that just seemed so pessimistic and dark that I just, like, at that point, I just, like, shut down, and I was like, nope.
That's funny. There were several times in the book that I thought, no, not real. No, not real. No, but I don't even remember that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. There were just too many things like that were just, they didn't mess with the plot, with the themes, with any of it, with the characters.
Well, I didn't feel like this had a theme. Like, that's the thing that's so amazing about Harry Potter, is that there's all these layers and everything fits together so perfectly. And like every time I read it, I'm seeing new things that I didn't notice before. And this just seems so shallow and so just like flashy, and I mean, it is written for the stage, so that could be part of it, but it just really, really pales in comparison.
I think maybe that's part of why it feels like fan fiction too, is you don't have all of that. I'm sure, like, how much planning went into the originals, you know, how much time and thought went into all of that writing and making all the connections. And I mean, it's just huge. It's huge. And this is not like that at all. It's really just like, well, do you want to know what happened next? Here's a snapshot of what happened next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I know it's written for the stage, and I prepared myself. You know, we talked about all this with As You Like It, but I prepared myself to say this is going to be different. It's a different format, and try to visualize it, and to see it differently. But I think it doesn't change the fact that, like, all of those things don't mesh with reality, and you can have a much better written play even.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very critical because I couldn't write a play if I wanted to, but but I don't think this is it.
No, I agree. So talking about why this story is impossible.
Oh yes, why?
So
Why did she say?
J.K. Rowling said before that going back more than a few hours in a time turner results in death. So there's that. And I know they kind of tried to get around that by saying, oh, it's a special time turner that the bad guys had. But there's still a lot of things wrong with that. So first off, all of the time turners were destroyed in Order of the Phoenix when they were in the Ministry of Magic. They accidentally knocked over the shelf that had all the time turners, and so it kept smashing over and over again, and all the time turners were there. So I think that's why they had to make up that there was one somewhere else that someone had. But there were still some things wrong with that whole thing. First off, if Albus was going to travel back in time to save somebody, wouldn't his first inclination have been to go back and save his grandparents instead of this stranger that he doesn't know and hasn't met and has nothing to do with at all?
Possibly.
Because what bothered him was that his dad was famous. So if he wanted his dad to be just a normal person, he would go back and save his grandparents so that Harry would grow up with his family And
and
wouldn't that have fixed everything?
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, if we're being rational.
I know, it's all pretend.
No, I mean, like, teenagers aren't always rational. They don't
Yeah.
always think things through. I didn't necessarily agree with like why pick Cedric.
Mhm.
I think that just the year and Voldemort coming, that being when Voldemort came back, and the whole thing with the maze just made for more drama. And it was, somebody just said this will be a really great time, so it has to be Cedric.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I also was thinking maybe that was just also emphasizing like how much Albus disliked Harry, in that he could only focus on fixing Harry's mistake instead of doing something that would have made him happy, that would have given Harry a happier childhood. He was just focused on fixing his mistake. So something else about the time turners was that they work by, one turn is 1 hour. So if they were going to go back 20 years, they did not sit there and twist the time turner all those hours. So that was another problem I had with it. I thought them being thrown back into the present after 5 minutes with no consequence and in exactly the same place they were in was too convenient, because we saw before in Prisoner of Azkaban, the only way to get back to the present is to live through that time. So really, if they had used the time turner, if it wasn't conveniently broken, they would have had to live through those 20 years to get back.
Yes.
And so it talked about that in the other link I posted about time travel in Harry Potter, which I thought was super good. And I pulled some quotes out of it if you want to hear them. Did you read that one, or was that the one you didn't read?
I skimmed through that one. I didn't read the whole bit of it, unfortunately.
Okay, so here were the insights that this person, I forgot to write down the author's name, but it's on the Sugar Quill website. Also, the time turners take the person back to where they were at that point in time. So if you travel to a time before you were born, you would just like poof away and be gone.
Nice.
So there's that. Anyway,
that's all. Those are all points that, like, it doesn't mesh with the canon.
I know. And so, so this was the quote that I liked that this person wrote. Rowling's magic is not a force of nature, but a force of the soul. Yet the source of the actual energy is nature, else permanently enchanting objects would not be possible. A magical performance draws the energy from nature, channels it through the soul, forms it in the mind, and releases it through the body and often the wand. Emotions, willpower, and memories play the most important parts in magic. Magical strength comes from the soul. Magical prowess comes from the mind. Magic is also about intent. I do not think it would be possible to go back in time in order to save yourself. Doing so would create a paradox in your mind subject to attacks by the magic. You cannot save yourself unless you're saved in order to do so. Unless things are predetermined and you know it, but that is not the case, you don't know what will happen. The bottom line is that I strongly believe that the magic prevents, or at least tries to prevent, time travel with the intention of changing the past. And so that would explain why Harry and Hermione are able to travel back to save Buckbeak in Prisoner of Azkaban, because they did not intend to save him. Harry was just kind of going along for the ride, and Hermione was intending to save Sirius, who hadn't died yet. And so Buckbeak technically never died, because it was kind of like a time loop thing where they rescued him. He lived because they rescued him even before they knew they did.
Right. It's one of those like side effects.
Right. And so when you're reading Prisoner of Azkaban, like at first you think he's dead, but he's not really dead because the guy just chopped a pumpkin.
Right.
Time. And so anyway, I don't know. It's very confusing, but it makes sense.
I think she does a good job explaining there.
Yeah.
Well written. It's well written. Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of things. Yeah, there are a lot of things about the time concept that don't mesh up in Cursed Child. And when you read the originals, even with all the, you know, like all the things that are going on, when you get to the end of it, it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you can take the different timelines and put them together and it makes sense.
Right.
And that's one of the things I was looking at on the Sugar Quill, is like how she could put she puts the timelines and spells them out. And they really do line up and make sense, where this just doesn't come together at all. It just doesn't. So.
Yeah. What did you think about Voldemort's child?
I thought it was a little stretching, but within, I don't know, the fact that he had a child, like, okay, I guess it's within bounds of possibility. I thought for sure if it was going to be somebody, Bellatrix, okay. But I don't know, I always saw him as more preoccupied with power, without time for relationships, even superficial ones. So one of those moments for me that was like, was when she just kept showing up.
Yeah.
Her name, I knew something was going to be wrong because of her name.
Yeah.
I don't know, did that stick out to you?
Because her full name was Delphine, wasn't it?
Yes.
And like the first time I read it, I was like, oh, Nagini, the snake. Yep.
And the fact that she goes by Delphi the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I knew that was going to throw things off. And then like, it's really, really wrong when she just shows up in Hogwarts.
Uh-huh.
Because you can't do that.
No, you can't.
How does she get in?
Well, I don't know. They did bring up tunnels from the girls' second floor bathroom again. So I don't know. I think she probably didn't use the tunnel, but I thought, like, I don't know. Sometimes it's in stories when they revisit places, like it's fun, and you're like, oh, I get to see it again. But in this one, it
Oh, you can't come out of the bed. You can't get out of the bed.
It's fine. It's fine.
I need to go see this.
Oh, but I didn't feel that way. Like in this one, it felt like they were just throwing it in.
Yeah, it felt wrong.
Yeah, it did. I don't know. The whole time I just felt wrong. It felt like all the characters were just being borrowed, and like they were just, it was just all wrong.
It was all wrong.
It was all wrong.
The one thing that made me feel better was when they, is it Amos Diggory? Cedric. When you find out at the end that he had been cursed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought, oh, okay, thank goodness, because at least that explains one character acting like an idiot, like that wasn't in their nature.
Yeah.
I think really everybody could just fall under that category for this whole book.
I agree.
It was a sad.
It was, but don't you feel better now that you've read it? I do.
Yes, because I no longer have the impending like sense of doom, the anxiety of like, well, I need to read it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
It wasn't as fulfilling as I'd like, but yes, at least I can say it's done.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
How do you feel about the fact that they're like the rumors, are they going to bring it bring it to stage in the States, would
Oh,
you
I
have to
feel
go
fine
watch
about it now that I know I don't have to go watch it.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, no, I don't even want to see it.
No, I really don't either. I feel fine. I'll let everyone else go watch it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It is.
I don't even.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it feels like to be J.K. Rowling and to have your creation, something that you poured yourself into for so many years. I don't know what it feels like to have something like that. So I can't necessarily fault her for kind of letting it go a little bit to just maybe be its own thing or to evolve into whatever. Because it seems like it would really take a toll. Because I think everybody who loves Harry Potter feels like they own it. Like they feel a sense of ownership about it.
That's true.
And so in one way, I can kind of understand it that way. So I don't know. I'm not sure where I was going with that. I think if she wanted, there's obviously a reason why she hasn't written more. I think she has said that Harry Potter is done. Like she's done with Harry's storyline. So even though I wish that she would write more books, I can kind of understand.
I guess the thing I don't understand is maybe this is just being, I don't know, stuck up person. I don't know. Why would you let somebody else? Why would you lend your name? Why do you lend your name? Like to it. Like it's one thing to say everybody has ownership and you let the fan fiction go and you let people make the art and the whatever, you know, because it's become a part of them and it's become this thing that's much bigger than you are, and you can be sort of enthralled with like what that experience is, even if it isn't like the way every single one is the way you would design it, right? But there would still be like, this is what I created, and then this is all the spin-off. You know,
Yeah,
versus like her name is on this. She has said, like, she's allowed this to be an official thing. That's what I don't understand.
I would really love to know, like to just get like a little peek into her brain, because I don't know. I don't think I could do that.
It's really hard.
So I don't know. I've wondered if she was blackmailed, like slightly seriously almost. I don't know. I really hope not. I don't know. Like somebody presented the idea to her, and like we don't know how she feels about that. Like, does she regret her decision, or does she still think it's really fun? I don't know.
That's what I would love to know. I would love to see the interview where she says, this is how I feel. This is why I decided to do this. This is how I saw it going. This is how I feel about it now. Because in my head, I just don't see how this, you know, something that you have cared for and created and worked on specifically so carefully, that you would be okay with something that departs so much. And obviously I'm biased because like you said, you have an ownership, and to me, like, this is my Harry Potter and this is not, like,
Yeah.
but I can't make it mesh.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think it's pretty obvious that she does have more to write. Not about Harry Potter, but with her adult crime novels that she's written, and with the screenplays and the other things, that she still has more to write. But I don't know. She's been living with Harry Potter a lot longer than the rest of us. have. And so I just really don't even know. I would really like to know how she feels about it now too. I just saw this afternoon the actress who played Professor Sprout from the movies.
Yeah.
She was at some kind of event and somebody was asking her like a question about Harry Potter, and like she got really upset and she like snapped at them and she's like, I'm done with Harry Potter. What are you, 12 and a half? Nobody cares about Harry Potter anymore. And I felt a little sad when I read that there are people who feel that way. Even people who were in the movies.
That breaks my heart. I'm sure at some point you're probably like, I have now been typecast and that's all that people will ever see me as.
Yeah.
And if you want to do other things with your career, I can see that. But at the same time, I think it would be an honor to be a part of something so big that affects so many people. I've thought about that before, like how do Dan and Emma and Rupert feel about that whole experience? And of course it was like, for them, it was all the first thing they'd ever done. Right. So I'm sure like other people coming to it later may feel differently, but I don't remember which one of it was that said like, I know, like no matter how many people see me, no matter whatever else I do in my life, I will always be this character.
Yeah.
But they seem in the interviews and the things that you watch and read, like they're okay with that, you know, that they're happy with that experience. And I thought, you know, that would be a neat thing to be able to say I was part of that.
Yeah.
I guess everybody feels differently.
Yeah, apparently.
That makes me a little sad.
Oh, so I think that's all I had about this play, this book. Overall, I'm glad I read it. I'm glad it's over. I don't have to see the play. So that's that.
That's that. Did you look over the list of actors in the back?
Yes, I did briefly.
Did anybody stand out to you? I mean, I'm not really great about knowing stage actors, but nobody jumped out to me as like,
no, nobody did. I think I probably was feeling a little unkind towards them, that they would be complicit in ruining Harry Potter.
Yes. What is wrong with you? So we can be fair and say that maybe some of them committed thinking it was going to be really awesome and then it was not. Maybe they have regrets too. We can tell ourselves that so that we'll feel better about it.
Yeah. So since you brought that up, what did you think about Hermione? Because I know everyone was freaking out before the play started that the actress they chose to play Hermione was Black.
Oh, I didn't even know. I would love to like look up each, I just didn't have time to do that yet. Each actor and actress and see what their background is and what have they been doing. And anyways, I think, you know, that's the day and age we live in is a multicultural one, and one where we are trying to see past those things. And I think everybody loves the characters, and why not give everybody a chance to be who they want to be? And I don't know.
I would have been really impressed if they just did it and then nobody said anything. But of course, they like made this huge production about it, this huge fuss. There were all these articles, and like everyone was blowing up about it. I think they it should have been a normal,
like, not a thing.
Yeah.
Not a thing. Yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. I just feel like I don't get caught up in as much of those things as the world does.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we moved around a lot, right? So lived in a military family, moved around a ton. And I seriously, living at military bases and stuff, you just get to be friends with whoever is around and whoever is not, whoever hasn't moved yet. Like whoever's close by, you make friends with them. And I felt like cultural differences weren't so much of a thing. And it really, I don't know, maybe I was really naive and people will say that, but it really wasn't until I was high school, a little bit older, that I realized the people around me were having serious issues with race. I always thought of it as something that was like, oh, that happened a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And people are past that now. And so it always kind of stops me in my steps when people have a huge to do about something like that. It just doesn't make sense. So.
I have to tell you.
Anyway.
I have to tell
Okay, we're gonna have to cut this part out of the episode. What do you want?
So before all of you
Is somebody hurt?
No.
Okay, then go back in your room and shut the door.
Standing on me.
Go back in your room and shut the door.
It's all good because we can edit now.
I know. So
Go ahead. I was going to ask you maybe a really superficial question, but book cover art.
I think it's really weird. It makes no sense, and there's nothing about Quidditch in this book, and so why does it look like Snitch? And also, why is it a nest? And why does he look so sad? Because he has a fine life. His life is not ruined by being Harry Potter's son, even though he thinks it is.
Well, and it's fair for him to have angst. He's a teenager, and maybe.
I think I would care if we got to see him in classes more and got to know him and see some of his experiences instead of just all this weird, crazy stuff he decides to do.
Fair. If he were better written. And I feel like there's story material there.
Yeah.
There's opportunity there. But yeah, I love cover art. That's always something that I'm fascinated with. And when I got the book, I was like, it's so pretty. Look, it's so pretty. And I can't wait to see what does it mean? So that at the point, that point when you're reading the book and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I got to the end of the book and I'm like, what is that? Still makes no sense.
No.
I'm really disappointed. And I had a friend once who teased me about my obsession with cover art. He's like, look, they're just going to change it on the next edition anyway. It doesn't matter. But it's a chance for an artist to make an interpretation of a work. And I get really attached to cover art. But I just was really irritated that the cover art has nothing to do, or that I cannot make the connection.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just random.
Another fail. Cursed child fail. That's going to be the hashtag this week.
Agreed.
So, well, sad day.
I know. So we should probably wrap it up since we're trying to keep it a little shorter so we can add in our cool stuff.
Yes.
So go ahead and tell us about the book you have selected for next month.
So despite being incredibly disappointed with this read, I'm back in Harry Potter world. And also, it was great, like you said, to get that wonderful feeling of anxiety gone for embracing this. So we're now going to read the new,
Wait, the big difference is that J.K. Rowling did write this.
with a giant smile on your face, right?
Yeah.
So the Fantastic Beasts screenplay, not to be confused with the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book that she wrote back in the day for charity. That's supposed to be one of the school books. This is the actual screenplay. Did you see the movie already? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll not say anything about that, but we'll be able to talk about the comparisons there to how we feel about all of that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. I'm excited.
You've decided?
No, I'm excited.
Oh, I thought you said, like, I already made up my mind. It's going to be good.
Well, no, I don't expect, there probably won't be many or any differences between the screenplay and the movie. Besides the fact that we'll be reading it instead of watching it.
True. There are always some little differences.
Mhm.
Things that happen when they're filming, you know, but not too huge, I imagine. Not anything crazy. But it'll also give us a chance to talk about adaptation, or not adaptation, but switching to a different, how she does switching to a different format, and how we feel about them making this into 5 volumes instead of 1, and all those sort of exciting things. So there you go. Fantastic Beasts, the original screenplay. Well, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the original screenplay. So, and not very long, not as fat as some of the books we read. So plenty of time for extra searching and finding things that we want to add.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And pretty cover art.
It does look really nice.
It does. It's very sort of 1920s cool.
Very fitting.
Anyways, all right. So anything, that's it then, I guess.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, see you all next month.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. Comment below and let us know if you think Harry Potter and the Cursed Child should be included in the Harry Potter canon or not. Check out The Library Lived In on Goodreads and Facebook.